Today I'm going to share with you 10 techniques you can use to take beginner drone moves to the next level, to create stunning drone videos that will leave your audience in awe. These include ways to improve the moves themselves, to make them better for storytelling and revealing your points of interest and subjects, how to add movement to your clips to make them more dynamic and help show scale, editing tricks to elevate your footage, like adding fake clouds, and more. Hopefully these tips and ideas can give you inspiration that you can use in your future drone projects to make them even better. Let's jump right in. Now, if you're new around here, welcome to The Drone Creative, the channel that helps you learn more about flying drones, from the basics to the most advanced techniques to help you capture beautiful photos and videos. So if you would like to see more of that, then please consider subscribing and making sure that notification bell is on so that you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. It would be greatly appreciated. Okay, so the first technique I want to show you is how you can improve the push forward drone move. So I have the drone looking at Elephant Rock here. That's this rock formation in the distance known as Elephant Rock because it looks like an elephant. Now, all these moves I'm going to be showing you today will be done in stick mode 2, and this can be changed in your controller's settings. So when I'm talking about pushing the joystick in a certain direction, that's if you're using stick mode 2. Now, to do a standard push forward, all you need to do is push the right stick forward, and you get this really nice clip. But we can make this even better by using a technique I use all the time, and that's to, instead of doing a push forward, do a push forward rise up, but do it over the top of an object. And this adds two things. Firstly, it adds a wider range of motion, and secondly, it doesn't reveal our subject straight away. As we rise up over the top of an object, we can reveal our point of interest in the distance. And this is great as an opening clip to your sequences because it doesn't reveal your subject straight away. So to do this, all you need to do is lower your drone down behind an object so that you can't see your point of interest. And then to do the push forward rise up over it, firstly I recommend being in cine mode so you get the slowest movement possible. And then all you need to do is push both joysticks up, push them both forward, and your drone will start to fly forward and rise up over the object to reveal your point of interest, giving you this absolutely incredible clip. And I use this all the time. Here you can see another example where I'm rising up over this pathway to reveal this building in the background. And again, I think this looks absolutely incredible. Now, the next technique I want to show you is how you can improve the standard orbit by using parallax. First, let's take a look at how we do the orbit, and then I will explain what parallax is and how you can use it to get absolutely epic looking clips. So you can see we have our point of interest in the center of our frame. And if we want to do an orbit manually with the joysticks, all you have to do is to do an orbit to the right, push the right joystick right, and then move the left joystick left. And this starts your drone flying right, but also rotating the drone left at the same time. And by keeping your thumbs or fingers locked in one position, you can start to do this orbit motion around your point of interest. Now, if you want to do an orbit in the other direction, to the left, you simply have to push the right joystick left to start the drone flying left, and then at the same time move the left joystick right, and this will start the orbit going to the left. Now, if you're finding it quite tricky to do this manually with the joysticks, you can have the drone do this for you. All you have to do is draw a box around your subject, and then down at the bottom you want to select POI mode. Then you will see this slider, and this slider allows you to control two things. Firstly, the direction that you want to orbit by either sliding it left or right, and also how fast you want to orbit. So the more you slide that slider in the direction you want to go, the faster you will do the orbit. So I want this to be nice and slow, so I'm only going to move this over a little bit. Then you want to hit go and hit record at the same time, and the drone will now start automatically orbiting your point of interest. Now, this looks great, but we can improve this by adding parallax. But what is parallax? Parallax is a camera technique you can use to create depth by having the background and foreground moving at different speeds. So in this example, you can see the background is moving faster than the foreground, creating this epic looking clip. Now, to achieve this effect, all we have to do is zoom the camera in and then do the orbit the same way we were doing it before. Now, with the DJI Mini 3 Pro, there is 3 ways you can zoom the camera in. You can firstly zoom the camera in by tapping this button on the screen here, and that will jump to a 2x zoom. Or if you want more control, you can press and hold on the same button and then drag down, and you will have more control over the amount you want to zoom. Lastly, you can use the scroll wheel on the back of the controller, and this again will give you more control in zooming that camera in. So as you zoom in, you will be losing a small amount of quality. However, if you're uploading to social media platforms such as YouTube and Instagram, by the time them platforms compress the video down when you upload them, you're probably not going to recognize or see this loss in quality too much. So all you need to do is zoom that camera in, and then you want to start doing that orbit again. And this time, as you orbit, you will start to see that parallax effect as the background is moving faster than the foreground. And I think this looks absolutely incredible and is something you have to try next time you're out doing an orbit move. Now, another technique that I think works really well for improving orbits is having the gimbal on your drone pointing up, having the drone looking upwards. When we're capturing orbits or any drone moves, especially as a new drone pilot, we tend to capture lots of aerial perspectives, but drones are also great for capturing videos in locations or scenarios that you just couldn't put a traditional camera. And one of the techniques I love to do is putting the drone over the edge of a cliff, lowering it down slightly, and then having that gimbal point upwards to give you this totally unique perspective. And it also helps make the location look more grand than it actually is. As in this example, you can see I'm not that high off the ground, but by having the drone down slightly looking up, it makes this location look much more dramatic. And the Mini 3 Pro is perfect for this, because that cutout or notch above the gimbal and camera allows you to point that gimbal upwards to have an unobstructed view and to allow you to capture these unique perspectives. So to do this super simple technique, all you have to do is find a location where you can stand higher than your drone, such as a hill. Put the drone out next to you and lower it down. Point the gimbal upwards using the scroll wheel on the back of the controller, and then do an orbit move. And again, you can do this manually with the joysticks, or as I showed you before, you can have the drone do this for you, which is useful in these scenarios where you want to act natural, because if you do it manually, as in this example, you can see myself flying the drone. But if you're recording yourself, you might want to be able to act a little bit more naturally or hide that controller so it doesn't look like you're flying the drone. So the best way to do this is to use that point of interest mode, again by drawing a box around you, selecting the direction and speed you want to go, hitting go and then hitting record, and then you can hide the controller behind your back and start to act a bit more naturally and have the drone capture you in this epic way. Now, another move that looks great is the pull back, and it's another super simple beginner friendly move. All you have to do with your drone in cine mode, again just to keep the movement nice and slow, is to have your focal point in the center of the screen and then start to fly backwards by pulling the right stick back. But we can improve this by adding a little bit of movement into our scene by putting ourselves or somebody else in it, and that way we can do a couple of things. Firstly, it can help you tell a story. So if this is a clip in one of your sequences, it can help you show yourself exploring a location, for example, rather than showing an empty landscape. It can also be good for showing the scale of that landscape itself. So something I like to do is have the drone start close to yourself. You want to hit record, start to walk and start to fly the drone back at the same time, again by pulling that right joystick down. Now, something you want to make sure you do before doing this is to make sure your surroundings are clear. In this case, I was flying the drone over the top of an empty field, so there was nobody around. You always want to make sure you're flying safe at all times. And then you just want to keep holding down on that right joystick as the drone pulls back to get this awesome looking move. Now, if you struggle with controlling the drone while doing something like walking, an easier way to do this is to use the Droney quick shot. Now, to do this, again, all you need to do is put the drone close to you. You want to go in and select quick shot mode, and then you want to select the Droney. Then you want to position the drone just so that your focal point, which is this island in the distance, is still in view. You want to hit go, and then after it is counted down and has started recording, you simply want to walk away from the drone. The drone will start to fly back away from you as you walk, again creating this awesome looking clip. Now, another move that you can do that looks incredible is the top-down slider. So first, let's take a look at how to do it, and then I have a tip that will guarantee awesome results every time you do this move. So to do a top-down slider, all you need to do is point the gimbal straight down. And you can do this with the scroll wheel on the back of the controller, or a tip I have is to map one of the function buttons on the controller to recenter the gimbal, which means if you want to point the gimbal straight down at any time, all you have to do is tap that function button on the back of the controller. Now to do that, all you have to do is go into the settings by tapping the button on the top right of the controller screen, going to control, scrolling down to button customization, and then you can decide to map either the C1 or C2 function button on the back of the controller. In this example, I'm going to do the C2 button. And then you want to go to control and set this to recenter tilt down gimbal. And now when you press this button, the gimbal will point straight down, meaning you can go from facing the horizon to pointing straight down super quickly at any time by tapping this button. Then with the gimbal pointing straight down, to do a slider to the left, all you have to do is move the right joystick left. Or to do a slider to the right, all you have to do is move the right joystick right. Now the top tip I have whenever capturing videos from this perspective is to make sure everything is symmetrical and level. For example, you can see I have this path going through the center of my frame. But because you're using this top-down perspective, if this path wasn't level, it was just slightly off, it becomes really noticeable. So how do we make sure that everything stays level? Well, for this, I recommend using grid lines. Now you can turn grid lines on by going to the settings menu, going to camera, and then scrolling down until you see the grid lines options. And in here you will see three options. Firstly, you have a big X, which is great for keeping your subjects or points of interest in the center of the frame as you record. You have this grid option, which is great for composing your clips and doing things like using the rule of thirds. And lastly, you have a center point option, which again is great for keeping your subjects in the center of the frame. Now you can turn on each one of these individually, you can turn on multiple ones of these, or you can turn them all on. Now with them all on, you can see it becomes much easier to see if this path is level. And I can rotate the drone around until the path is perfectly level, and I can tell it's level by comparing it to the horizontal grid lines on the screen. I can also use them grid lines to make sure that the path is going directly across the center of the screen by placing it between them two horizontal lines. Now another thing these grid lines are great for is if you're doing a top down off yourself walking. If you've ever tried this, what you might find keeps happening is either you start walking too fast and the drone gets left behind, or you start flying the drone too fast and you get left behind. You might find it very difficult to make sure you stay in the center the entire time. Well, using the X grid line or the center point grid line, or I like to use both, you'll find it much easier to make sure you stay centered the entire time as you walk from this top-down perspective. All you have to do is continually keep that X on top of yourself and you will get this awesome looking clip where you stayed centered the entire time. Now another thing that will make a massive difference to how professional your clips seem is adding sound effects and music. So looking at one of the clips we captured earlier, let's look at it with no sound effects and music and then see how big of a difference it makes once we add them to the clip. Massive difference, right? I think adding sound effects and music makes your drone clips and sequences seem much more professional and engaging. But if you have ever tried adding sound effects and music to your drone videos, you might have encountered two problems. Firstly, you might have went online and found the right sound effect for your clip, but then realize it's copyrighted and you can't actually use it. Or you might have tried one of the music and sound effects platforms, but every time you search for a particular sound effect, there's no results come back. Or you spent hours listening to the tracks they offer, but still can't find one you like for your sequence. Well, to get around these two issues, I've been using and highly recommend the massive library provided by Epidemic Sound. They have over 35,000 high quality tracks in a wide range of genres and 90,000 sound effects, so you will always find the right sound effect for your footage. Importantly, they own 100% of all their music and sound effects, so you are safe to use them in your projects even if you upload them online. So let's quickly take a look at their platform and how you can use it to find sound effects and music, and we'll use this clip as an example. All I do is watch the clip and then think, what sounds would I expect to hear? So in this case, I can see the waves crashing around the rocks, so I simply type into the Epidemic Sound search bar waves, And then I get all these results back that I can preview, and once I have found one I like, I simply download it and add it to my timeline. Then for the music, we can search based on genre, mood, or themes. In the case of this clip, I think something cinematic would be nice, so I select the cinematic playlist, and in here you will find a curated list of music that fits that description. After finding one I like by going through and previewing them, again it's just a case of simply downloading it and adding it to your video timeline. And in a few simple steps, we have went from this to this. If you want to try Epidemic Sound, you can use the link in the description below to receive a free 1-month trial. The best part is any music and sound effects you use in your drone videos during the trial will remain safe and protected, even if you cancel your subscription after the trial is over. So you have nothing to lose. And if you want to start using music and sound effects in your drone sequences and videos, I recommend you give Epidemic Sound a try. Now, one of the editing techniques I like to use for top-down clips is to add fake clouds. And this can create a sense of the drone being higher than the sky than it actually is. It can make the clip seem more atmospheric, and it can also add more depth to your scenes. So let's quickly take a look at how you achieve this effect. Now for this effect, you are going to need some footage of clouds, and there's two different types you can use. Firstly, you can use a video of some clouds in the sky, and it really helps if they're in a nice bright blue sky. Or you can find some images of clouds on a black background. And you can find images and videos of clouds like these on royalty-free platforms such as Pexels and Unsplash. Then in your favorite video editor, in this case I'm using Adobe Premiere Pro, but you'll be able to achieve this effect in most video editors. The first thing you want to do is add your top-down drone clip. Then we want to add our cloud footage or image and add it over the top of our drone clip. Now we need to remove the background from these clouds, and depending on if you're using a clip of real clouds on a blue sky or an image of clouds on a black background, the technique you will use is slightly different. So for the real footage of clouds, I use a color key to key out the blue sky, leaving just the clouds. If you're using an image of clouds on a black background, all you have to do is set the overlay mode to screen. And now you can see we have a cloud element that we can move around on top of our drone clip. And all you have to do is position it into somewhere you think looks natural. And a top tip I have is if you're struggling to make the clouds look natural, you can look up real drone images online that have clouds in them and use that as a reference to where to place your clouds and how to make them look so that your drone footage seems more authentic. Now the last thing you might need to do is add movement to your clouds. So in this top-down drone clip of mine, you can see I'm actually rising up very slowly in the sky. And if the clouds don't move, this looks completely unnatural. So all I'm going to do is add a keyframe for the scale of the cloud at the start of my clip. And then at the end of my drone clip, I'm going to add another keyframe where I actually scale down the size of the cloud. And now if I play this back, as the drone rises up in the air, the clouds get smaller, making them look like they're getting further away from the drone as they would in real life, and this looks much better. Now this is a great little technique, and you can also use this for your drone images by again removing the background from some cloud images and applying them over the top of your drone images. Now another technique you can try if you're doing the pullback move is try adding the vertical effect to give you a really unique and awesome looking clip. But what is the vertical effect? The vertical effect is an in-camera visual effect created using a dolly zoom. The effect produces a clip in which the foreground remains in the same position while the background either shrinks or grows depending on the direction of the camera movement. So the way we achieve this using a drone is as the drone flies back to zoom the camera in at the same time, making the background get larger but our foreground objects stay in the same position. Now when doing this technique, again I recommend that you have the X or center point grid line on to help keep your subject or point of interest centered at all times. Now there's two ways we can do this effect. The first is completely in camera with the drone. All you have to do is start with your drone close to your point of interest, start to fly backwards by pulling the right stick down, and at the same time using the scroll wheel on the back of the controller, start to zoom the camera in. Now this might take a few attempts. You might find it tricky to zoom in at the same speed you're flying back. What you might find is sometimes you zoom in too quickly, and sometimes you might find that you don't zoom in quick enough. But once you time it just right, you will get this incredible looking effect. Now if you're struggling with this, the second way you can do this is in your favorite video editor. For the first part, all you need to do is get a drone video of your drone flying backwards away from your point of interest. You don't need to worry about zooming in at this stage. Then you want to open that clip in your favorite video editor, and then at the start of the clip, add a keyframe and keep the scale at 100%. Scroll to the end of the video clip and then add another keyframe, but this time scale the video up so that it's zoomed in. And now when you play this back, you will get this vertigo effect achieved in your video edit. Now another technique you can use when doing drone moves is to try FPV mode. So for this example, I'm going to be doing a push forward turn. And a push forward turn is a really great move, especially if you're using it to reveal your points of interest. Remember, slowly revealing your point of interest by coming out around an object is great as an introduction to your drone sequences. So in our first example, I'm going to be keeping the drone in follow mode, which is the standard gimbal mode. And in this mode, the gimbal compensates for the aircraft tilt to keep the video image steady and the horizon horizontal and level at all times. And to do the push forward turn, all I'm going to do is push the right stick forward, and then to do a turn to the left, you either move the left stick left, or if you want to push forward and do a turn to the right, just move the stick right. And as you can see, as I come around this cliff face, it starts to reveal our landscape, and I think this clip looks incredible. But we can spice it up a bit by using FPV mode. And FPV mode will give us more of an action feel. It will make the drone seem more like a fixed wing aircraft, and it results in a more unique looking clip when doing a move like this. In FPV mode, the camera and gimbal is locked to the aircraft orientation. So the video image will tilt as the aircraft does a turn. Now to enable this mode, you just want to go to your settings menu, go to control, scroll down to gimbal mode, and then select FPV mode. And this time, as we do our push forward turn, again by pushing the right stick forward and moving the left stick either left or right to turn either left or right, you can see our horizon is tilting in the direction we are turning, giving us that fixed wing feel and providing a more unique looking clip. Now another move that you can do that looks absolutely incredible is the drop down gimbal up. So what you want to do is you want to start with your point of interest in the center of the frame, but you want to tilt your gimbal down slightly. Then you want to start to descend the drone by pulling down on the left stick, and at the same time raise the gimbal up towards the horizon using the scroll wheel on the back of the controller while trying to keep your subject or point of interest centered to get this beautiful looking clip. But if you have ever tried this, you might find two things happening. Firstly, you might gimbal up too quick, so as you descend, you bring the gimbal up to the horizon too quickly and your point of interest doesn't stay centered the whole time. Or as you descend, you don't gimbal up quick enough, and so your point of interest drifts off the top of the frame. So if you're struggling to control the scroll wheel on the back of the controller while descending smoothly, you can actually slow down the rate at which the gimbal raises or lowers to make this easier. And you can do this by going to Settings, then going to Control, going to Gain and Expo, selecting the mode that you are doing this move in. I always do this in Cine mode, so I'm going to choose Cine mode, and then scrolling down to the gimbal settings where you will see max control speed. Now in here you can control how quickly that gimbal will move when you turn the scroll wheel on the back of the controller. So if you raise this up, when you use that scroll wheel, the gimbal will move very fast. But if you lower this down, you can set it to around 5, and this should help you keep your point of interest centered more easily as you bring that gimbal up when you're doing the drop down gimbal up move. So there you have it, 10 tips, tricks and techniques you can do when flying beginner drone moves that should make your videos and sequences even better. Now before you go, if you liked this video and you learned something new, please let me know by giving me the thumbs up and clicking that like button down below. And if you love all things drones and want to know how to get more cinematic videos and better images with your drone, then I recommend you check out my channel where I have a ton of other content to help you level up your drone game. Please remember to subscribe and make sure that notification bell is checked so that you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. And if you want to stick around and watch a few more of them now, here's a few I personally recommend. I'll not keep you back any further. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you over there.